Ways of preventing and controlling pest and fruit tree diseases. Two main problems of fruit and timber tree growers. Number one, controlling insects. Number two, plant diseases. From 10 to 20% destruction of fruit tree crops are caused by insects. Three types of insects. Number one, chewing insects or chewers. Number two, sucking insects or suckers. Number three, lapping insects. Number one, chewing insects. These insects have horn-like jaws which they use for biting and chewing the stems, leaves, and fruits of trees. Grasshoppers, caterpillars, grubs, and beetles are examples of these insects. The examples of chewing insects are grasshoppers, caterpillar, grubs. Grubs are larvae of various insects, especially beetles. Number two, sucking insects. These have sharp, slender, and hollow beaks which they insert under the surface of plants to suck their juices. Sanoses, scales, aphids, plant lice, squash bugs, and other tree bugs are examples of sucking insects. These are the examples of sucking insects, like aphids. Plant lice, bugs, this sucking insect, called leafhopper, is native worldwide. Number 3. Lapping insects. Mouth parts of these insects enable them to lap or lick liquids from the outer surface of objects on which they feed. Cherry fruit fly and apple maggots are examples of lapping insects. This is the example of the cherry fruit fly. And this is the example of the apple maggot. It is a worm-shaped larva of various members of fly family. Insect control. Number 1. Insecticides are materials used to control insects. Number 2. Stomach poison used to control biting and chewing insects. Number 3. Contact insecticides used to suffocate, burn, or paralyze sucking insects. Number 4. If pests cannot be destroyed by other means, keep the farm clean and rotate crops to get rid of them. Fruit diseases are caused by bacteria, fungi, or virus. Fungus is a plant that cannot produce food for itself because it has no chlorophyll. Saprophytes are fungi that live on dead or dying plants. Parasites are fungi that live on living plants. Diseases caused by fungi are scabs, rust, smut, mildews, molds, rats, and blights. Chewers are poisoned with arsenic. Arsenic is an extremely poisonous semi-metallic element.
To look at them, you'd never know it, but these ants are fungus farmers. The leafcutter ants of South America are the epitome of teamwork. Living in colonies of several 100,000 to 1,000,000, each ant has a specific role to play within its colony. And each one of them depends on this fungus to survive. The relationship between the ants and the fungus is exclusive. Neither one is found in nature without the other. The ants cut discs out of leaves and carry them to underground nests. Then they shred them and use them for growing the fungus. Inside the huge subterranean fungus gardens, thousands of ants work to cultivate the fungus for food. The ants cannot digest the plant molecules in the leaves, but the fungus can, so it grows and provides a source of food for the ants. The fungus benefits from this arrangement too. The ants provide it with a constant supply of food. Each ant in the leafcutter ant colony has a specific job to do and knows how to do it instinctively. The largest ants are the gatherers. They brave the outside world to cut the discs out of leaves. Then they carry them back to the nest. The smaller ants take over. They shred the discs into minute pieces, mix them with their saliva, and add them to the garden. The smallest ants care for the fungus garden. They transplant bits of fungus from an older part of the garden to the newer part to promote growth. They add their saliva to the garden and walk over it constantly. The ants harvest the fungus before it begins to sprout into mushrooms. They gather it and feed it to their larvae or eat it themselves. In this amazing colony, each individual type of ant works for the good of the group, and fungi are an essential element of these ants' survival. This symbiotic relationship benefits both the ants and the fungi. Nature is full of such relationships, and the survival of many animal, plant, and fungus species depends on them.
Ways to control fungi. Number 1. Prevent spores from germinating. Number 2. Spraying with fungicide. Some pictures of this fungi are mildew, the corn smut, the molds, and a Japanese barberry plant, which is a host to rust fungus, and the oak apple gall caused by blights. One type of fungi disease, cold smut, has affected this corn plant. A Japanese barberry plant becomes a host to rust fungus. This oak apple gall disease is caused by one of the two worst fruit diseases called fire blights. This crawling organism with shell called snail also destroys our plant. Metaldehyde liquid suspension is used to kill snails, while fruit fly of mango can be controlled by an azudrine insecticide. These sucking insects, called mealybugs, can be controlled by a chlordane or metaldehyde. Insects like moth and butterflies are categorized under Lepidopterous insects and can be controlled with azudrine insecticide. Cercospora leaf spot attacks almost all kinds of crops. Lesions are circular in shape and dark brown in color. Control measures for Cercospora leaf spot. Number 1, sanitation. Number 2, crop rotation. And number 3, use of disease-free and resistant planting material. A fruit disease called calico virus has affected this peach fruit. Branch felt disease. This is most common among mango trees when the climate is warm and moist. Control measures for branch felt disease. Number 1, clean culture. Number 2, field sanitation. Number 3, periodic spraying of metaldehyde solution. And number 4, prune branches if heavily affected. Root rot. This disease is caused by nematodes. Nematodes are tiny worms. Symptoms include gall on roots and wart-like growth on tubers. Number 1. Blank insects. The mouthparts of these insects enable them to lick liquids from the outer surface of objects on which they feed. A. Sucking. B. Chewing. C. Lapping. D. Crawling. A powdery white-colored mildew has affected almost all the leaves of this plant, and this is a fungus disease. This is another type of fungus disease called molds. Root. This disease is caused by nematodes. Nematodes are tiny worms. Symptoms include gall on roots and wart-like growth on tubers. The examples of insects are grasshoppers, caterpillar, grubs. Grubs are larvae of various insects, especially beetles. Number 6. The examples of chewing insects are grasshoppers, caterpillar, the blank, and the beetles. A. Grubs, B. Grubs, C. Galls, D. Goals. There are two ways to control fungi. Number 7. Prevent blank from germinating. A. Spores, B. Spores, C. Sponges, D. Spires. The other way to control fungi, number 8, is by spraying with blank. A. Insecticide, B. Parricide, C. Pesticide, D. Fungicide. Number 9. This is one of the diseases caused by fungi, which is called the corn blank. A. Mildew, B. Rot, C. Smut, D. Molds. Number 10. This oak apple gall disease is caused by fire blank. A. Smut, B. Molds, C. Blights, D. Rot. Number 11 are the control measures to control branch health diseases. Clean culture, field sanitation, periodic spraying of metaldehyde solution, and blank branches if heavily affected. A. Spray, B. Remove, C. Prune, D. Water. Number 12. This is a Japanese barberry plant which is a host to blank fungus. A. Blights, B. Scabs, C. Rust, D. Smut. Number 13. The mouthparts of these insects enable them to get liquids from the outer surfaces of objects on which they feed. A. Chewing, B. Lapping, C. Sucking, D. Flying. Number 14 are examples of insects with sharp, slender, and hollow beaks.